Hi.
I'll just wanted to say hi, introduce myself. I'll be chairing the panel discussion later. So I think what we've decided at this point in time, just because we've got a lot of things obviously that we want to say, what we'll try and do is we'll stick initially to just having everyone just saying what they prepared. We'll try and ideally keep it short so that we can save a lot for the panel discussion. And basically, in order to save time, rather than translate everything word for word, what we'll do is if things look like they're getting a bit complicated, I'll give a quick wave and just do a quick explanation of whatever was just happening. But otherwise, I'm just going to kind of let you guys do what you're doing. So if you just speak a little bit more slowly so that our students can also understand, I think that'll actually save more time than if you speak at normal speed and I then translate. So just kind of keep it a bit slow, keep it short, and then we'll save more discussion for the panel section. I think that would be the best way to go about it.
Okay. And let me check our order. So first I will say something short opening, and then I will present some telematic concert with a PPT, and the first is Mark, and then Michael and Soo-Yeon, and then me and Young-sun and Kyung-sun together talking about our telematic concert, and then we will see a very short video of this January telematic film. Okay, and then next maybe 20 minutes. So the Professor Yates will lead us, and then we just free talking in a round table. So I don't want to heavy and serious kind of seminar doing. So we just very feel free and casual talk each other. So, and then I will let our students see how collaborate with each other in Korea and abroad musicians, and then music also. So thank you. Hi, 영선, 김 선생님 안녕하세요.
선생님 그럼 전
Hi everyone.
하면 되는 거예요?
Hello. 시간이 되는 것 같아요.
저는
시작할게요.
한국말로 하면 되죠.
선생님 편하신 대로.
네네네.
So is it okay to speak in Korean? So there will be a translator in between us?
Yeah. Professor Yates
okay.
are ready.
I'm ready.
Okay. Thank you.
Should we turn off our video when we're not speaking?
I think as long as the audio is off, like the video you can leave on if you want to, but the main thing is just keep the audio off so we've not got any crossed lines.
Don't turn off video.
Okay, but this is a webinar, right?
Webinar.
Like the Zoom format is a webinar.
So
I mean,
it's
we're not going to see the students.
no, well, I don't know.
They are all hiding.
But mainly it's because we've also got this live streamed on YouTube at the same time. So you can't see everyone who's watching anyway.
Oh, I see. It's a regular call. Okay. All right. So we just leave our video on.
Don't freeze.
Yeah. All right. In that case, I think since time is, yes, sorry?
No, is it, will I be able to share a video?
Yes, video share.
You'll be allowed to do that. You should be a shared host, so you can share no problem.
Okay. All right. Very good. Thank you.
All right. I think what we'll do, since it's time now, we'll get started. So welcome to everyone who's joining us for our next session of the 2021 SNU International Music Camp. So here we're going to be talking about telematic concert. We've got a panel of obviously very prestigious composers and performers and others with us here today. So what I'll do to save time, let you guys talk, I'll pass over to Professor Hong to introduce this session.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good morning here and good evening, US. Thank you so much for joining our section. And I'm a Geomungo player and professor of SNU, Seoul National University. So this section is introduction of telematic performance. So we have performance from US and then Korea also. So let me introduce performers before our present. So hi, this is, we have a great bassist and composer and professor of UC San Diego, Mark Dresser. Hi, good evening.
Hi. 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
Good to see you.
Yeah, thank you. And then we have also amazing trombonist and also very wonderful technician, a sound director, and professor of UC Irvine, Machael Dessen. Hi.
Hello, 안녕하세요.
안녕하세요. 반갑습니다. And then another musician is Korean. She is our family, Seoul National University. She graduated SNU and then she got the master degree. Master, doctor, 박사.
Master and PhD.
PhD, Haegeum player, and also composer. And she is living in San Francisco. Soo-Yeon. 안녕하세요. 수연 씨. 반갑습니다. 네, and then we have Korean musicians here, and she is beautiful and great violinist and professor of Seoul National University, Kyung Sun. Hi.
안녕하세요. Hello, everyone.
Good morning. Hi. And also, he is very important for this project, the telematic project. Sound technical director and SNU Seoul National University compose part professor Young-sun Kim.
안녕하세요. 반갑습니다.
안녕하세요. 반갑습니다. Okay, I briefly introduce the musicians, and then I'm gonna introduce a little bit of brief presentation with PPT. So I will share the PPT. Okay. Okay, let's see. 2021 telematic concert. Oh, sorry. This title was Unlimited Sense Part, Worms of Non-Contact, Seoul, San Diego, and San Francisco. This is our poster and performers. We have 4 performers here, and we have another 3 performers. So in Seoul, Kyung Sun Lee, violin, and Irul Lee, PD, Yulhee Kim, pansori, and in California, Soo-Yeon Haegeum, and Mark Dresser, bass, Anthony Davis, piano, Michael Dessen, trombone. And then we have 2 composers, Seung-Geun Kim, composer, professor of SNU, and John Cage. And technical team, California, sound, Mike Dessen, we already introduced, and the visual, Haegeum Kim, John Burnett, and Seoul National University, sound, technical team, Young-sun Kim, and visual, Jae Park and Nam Min Ho. And yes, we are unbelievable great musicians get together and make music, play together, contrabass Mark Dresser. And we have a very tight time, so I will pass very fast. Sorry about that. And piano, Anthony Davis. Yeah, and trombone, Michael Dessen. And Soo-Yeon Haegeum. Violin, Kyung Sun Lee. And this is me. And Lyuh Lee, PD. And Haegeum, she is pansori singer. Yes. And sound technical director Young Sun Kim. And media art supervisor Jae-Sung Park. Our program was we played 7 pieces in concert, and these are composers: Mark Dresser's Earthbound, Yoon Jeong Heo's Staring Distance, Anthony Davis' A Walk Through the Shadows, Soo-Yeon, Maze, Michael Dessen, What Piece Can We Hear? In John Cage, 4/6, Seung Kim, Music of Voice and Ensemble. And these are scores. So let me just simply introduce the Telematic concerts. So my English is not perfect. So if you hard to understand, maybe Professor Yates help me. So Telematic Performance is a non-contact live performance. In the era of a pandemic, we see non-face-to-face performance in a various of ways. I think this telematic performance is the closest to the form of real live performance. There is an inevitable latency to play through the internet in real-time live. Under such limited conditions, performers have developed a creation based on the improvisation, looking for a beautiful musical aesthetic that can be created with latency. So let me read a short article of January performances. Unlimited sense of warmth of non-contact. Telematic performance with a history of move more than 40 years. Created by the meeting of music and internet technology, is performing art in the form of sharing music and creating new genres based on the improvisation of the performer. It seems to have predicted the pandemic era. As part of a world-leading project at Seoul National University College of Music, the first telematic project was performed live with Stanford University in the US and Tech University of Berlin in Germany in January 2020. This year, performers from Seoul National University, UC San Diego, UC Irvine, San Francisco from the US, performed together online. The theme of this year's telematic concert was Unlimited Sense, and subtitle is Warmth of Non-Contact. In the future, non-contact era, which will become more active, the most necessary thing is the warmth between people. This is my thought. Especially when it comes to music performances, where you disparate means breathing with the performance or the audience. Telematic concerts have expanded and evolved another kind of a sense in addition to the existing senses to emphasize with the performers thousands of kilometers away. So we have many times rehearsals together, musical rehearsals and technical rehearsals. It is a really hard time to get together. Even very simple some score, and then we really want to harmonize it together, but it's really hard because of the very limited condition in online. But this is very meaningful for us, for the musicians. Very we get together to overcome these conditions, and then we can share our emotion and then our goal, and then after that the results comes out. That music is so beautiful, so beautiful. Some different, we can create some new new point of music. So yes, we have a very short time, so I will pass the next musician. So Mark. Hi, Mark. Okay.
Hello.
Hello.
First,
Can you tell us about your work?
oh yes, thank you. First of all, I want to say that I agree with everything that you said, Yoon Jeong, especially about the human contact. I agree that's the most important. The human contact, to me, is what transcends technology. And in fact, my experience is that the idea of latency ends up not even mattering. The idea of latency, which is the inherent delay when you have to cross large distances, for me is like a type of acoustic issue. So there's a long delay when we play together. And there have been ways that we've tried to accommodate that musically. And if I'd like to play for you one quick example of a first impression, a first experience in 2010, not the very first, but was an example of playing with musicians in New York at New York University, as well as and musicians in San Diego. And we were working on the idea of nourishments, what it is to give warmth, to give healing. And I had worked with a filmmaker, an animator named Sarah Jane Lapp, and we had worked together for a long time. She would make drawings, I would compose themes. So let me just play you something short. There's too much to share in a short period of time, but I'd like to share this with some luck.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Okay. I will stop right there. I just want to point out that drawings were made that you see projected here. Here's the animation that Sarah Jane Lapp made. One way I tried to deal with the latency is I composed for the piano to play off the beat, and I wrote for the musicians in New York to play on the beat, knowing that it would essentially be the same place, and then to write with a sense of staggering and overlapping. So I could go on for a long time, but I think that's an introduction at least.
Well, thank you very much. I think we'll save further discussion for the panel discussion at the end.
Sure.
If we can move on to our next speaker first, so we get the introductions down. Thank you.
Thank you. and then
Michael.
Michael. Okay.
Hello. It's great to be here. Thank you so much. 감사합니다. I think you're seeing now some pictures. Oh, I need to, there's no sound right now, but I do need to turn it on in a minute. These are from many concerts that we've done. Mark and I have been working together for many years, since about 2007, on telematic concerts. So we use the word telematic to refer to music that we create for networked concerts. So in the way that Mark just described, sometimes we have to compose new kinds of music so that it works at this long distance. There is another term called networked music performance, which is a more broad general term that simply refers to playing music through the internet. But when we say telematic, we really mean music that we composed for networks, specifically for this environment. So we had been doing this work for many years, about 12 years, when the pandemic began, and suddenly many more people were interested in this work. Before that, it was a very small field, and we also mostly did this work at universities, where we have high bandwidth networks, very fast speed networks. So the two things that have been different during the pandemic are that suddenly many people are interested, whereas before very few people wanted to do this. But also, we are not normally at universities, and we have to learn to work from our homes with many musicians at home. And that means using home networks, which are not as fast. So, and we also do not have all the audio equipment that we have in our concert halls at schools. So it's been a challenge, but many people in the technology community are working on developing new software, new hardware, and many musicians are experimenting with how to use it and how to make new kinds of music happen over the internet. So even after the vaccine and the pandemic is done, we will be benefiting from all of this development that happened because of the pandemic. One positive side is that we have gotten many more tools for playing together online. As Mark mentioned, one of the things that we have to deal with is latency, the time that it takes for sound to travel. And when we are within shorter distances of about 800 kilometers or less, we can actually play in time together in tight synchrony. We can play conventional kinds of music and be rhythmically synchronized. When we are farther apart than 800 kilometers, then we can't really do that because we cannot move data faster than the speed of light over that distance. So then we have to compose music like Mark was suggesting, that works with a looser pulse or maybe multiple tempos or other kinds of experimental techniques to make it work musically over longer distances. So the final thing I'll mention is that many questions arise in this work about how to create a visual presence for the concert. And in particular, in the past, when we did concerts that were in concert halls, we often had, such as this one that we did with Yoon Jeong and Black String Ensemble and the Pansori singer Bail Dong, as well as Jung Pyo Lee. This concert, I think you can see here. I'll leave the sound off just so you get a sense of the visuals. This was between a concert venue in Seoul and another concert auditorium in San Diego, California. So there was a director, Jung Yang, who did a very complicated and wonderful visual design. And we all created new music, and they planned the visuals, including a large screen above the performers at this concert you see in Seoul. This across the top, they have a very wide screen that showed visuals. And they put the performers in between one another. So you see this shot in Seoul, you're seeing a performer, but if you look next to each performer, there are transparent projection surfaces. So for example, you see behind Bail Dong, you see a projection of the flute player in San Diego. And so in this way, you could see, for example, here, you see me and our pianist in California, but in between us, and we're on these translucent screens, in between us, Jung Pyo is there in person. So overall, the event had a quality where it looked as like a kind of a single ensemble, and there were these visuals behind us that the audience could see. There were these frames that were lit up. So it was a very interesting visual design that brought together the performers in a new space. I'll just let you hear just a tiny little bit of the sound. This is a composition of mine, but the whole concert is online.
Michael, I think due to time, we'll have to move on to the next person
Yep,
here.
I was just going to stop right there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No, I was done.
Yeah, let's save this for the panel
Beautiful.
later. I think there'll be lots of questions about that as well.
Yeah.
If we could then ask your Soo-Yeon to present on her work a bit.
저는 한국말로 말씀드릴게요. 저는 최근에 이제 팬데믹 이후로 몇 번 텔레마틱으로 했던 프로젝트를 3개를 준비해 봤는데요.
So we're seeing a presentation here of some of her recent works that she's been doing with telematic technology.
이거는 이제 스트링 쿼텟이랑 제가 같이 협업을 한 건데 각자 집에서 그 당시에는 연주할 때는 줌으로 연결해서 근데 동시에 각자 자기 소리를 녹음을 해서 나중에 이제 저한테 보내줘서 제가 그 포스트 프로덕션을 했거든요. 후작업을 제가 했기 때문에 그 당시에 연주 당시에 녹음 당시에는 서로 이제 교감 그러니까 인터랙션을 할 수 있었는데 또 퀄리티 자체는 각자 집에서 녹음한 걸 저한테 보내줬기 때문에 제가 나중에 후작업을 하면서 제가 원하는 방향으로 많이 만들 수 있고 특히 이 영상을 같이 협업을 할 수 있어서 좀 만족도가 높은 텔레마틱의 콘서트 과정이었던 것 같아요.
So here, what we can see is they, although it was recorded via Zoom, so that interaction was possible, at the same time, they also recorded their separate performance, so that was then all sent to Soo-Yeon, that she then put it together in post-production, was also able to produce this video to go with it. So she was quite pleased with the final result.
그다음 이거는 소울 퍼커션의 이제 퍼커셔니스트랑 같이 한 작업인데요. 이거 같은 경우는 이제 비브라포는 어쩔 수 없이 타악기이기 때문에 확실한 타점이 있어서 동시에 하기가 힘들어서 이제 비브라포는 제가 완전히 작곡을 해서 리듬 파트를 준 거고요. 그 다음에 나중에 제가 그거를 그 위에다가 제가 임프로비제이션으로 해금 멜로디를 얹은 거거든요. 그래서 이 곡 같은 경우는 약간 전통음악으로 치면 비브라폰이 좀 장구 같은 역할을 해준 거고요. 그 다음에 제가 해금을 그 위에 멜로디를 얹은 건데, 이거는 이제 동시에 서로 교감을 했다기보다는 제가 일방적으로 좀 약간 리스폰스 하는 그런 음악이었던 것 같아요. 한번 틀어볼게요.
In this case, because it's a percussion instrument, so obviously there were a lot more difficulties with regards to the sort of direct exchange. So in this case, rather than it being a two-way interaction, it was more her one-way response to the music that was being played on top with her Haegeum.
그래서 이 두 콜라보레이션에서 보면은 아까 말씀드렸듯이 크로노스 작업에서는 제가 이제 후 작업을 할 수 있었던 거, 그리고 소울 퍼커션에서는 이제 요즘 많이 각자 녹음을 할 때는 그 메트로놈을 틀어놓고 클릭 트랙을 많이 쓰긴 하는데, 저는 이제 개인적으로 그건 너무 이렇게 정해져 있으니까 좀 더 음악적으로 표현하고 싶어서 비브라폰 자체를 이제 클릭 대신 사용한 거고요. 그 다음에 그 위에 제가 즉흥으로 연주를 한 거라서 아까 말씀드렸듯이 이제 인터랙션보다는 리스폰스를 먼저 많이 한 케이스예요.
You can basically see the detail of what she was saying in the slide there, so I won't translate further.
이거는 이제 제가 팬데믹 이후로 작년부터 거의 1년 동안 일주일에 한 번씩 만나서 같이 하는 팀인데, 나우넷 앙상블이라는 팀이고요. 여기 왼쪽 위에 보면은 있는 분이 이거를 지휘하다시피 하시는데, 그걸 사운드 페인팅으로 해서 여러 가지 기호를 하셔가지고 우리가 이제 그거를 보고 각자 임프로바이즈를 하는 거예요.
So this is a team that's been meeting regularly, and you can see the person on the top left is acting in the role of a sort of conductor, creating sound paintings that the other people see and respond to in their improvisation.
네, 이거는 이번에 같이 작업한 메이스라는 곡인데, 제가 완전히 라이브로 하는 거는 처음으로 작곡가로서 참여한 거라서, 처음에는 한국에 계신 분들이 다 같은 공간에 있다고 하셔서 이제 아까 두 번째 곡에서 보여드린 것처럼 그 한국에 계신 팀이 좀 리듬적인 역할을 해주시면 저희가 그 위에 임프로바이즈를 하면 괜찮을 것 같다고 생각을 해서 야심차게 준비를 했는데, 실제로 해보니까 좀 그게 어려움이 많이 있었어요. 또 들리는 게 역시 시차가 있다 보니까. 그래서 이제 왼쪽에 거는 제가 맨 처음에 작곡한 거고, 그래서 좀 고쳐서 오른쪽 걸로 했는데도 좀 힘들어서 결국은 좀 더 많이 임프로비제이션이 으로 돼가지고 연주 자체는 그렇게 했는데, 그래도 제가 느낀 거는 이렇게 좀 시도를 제가 써놓은 걸로 시도를 했었고, 제가 하고자 했던 거를 연주자분들이 모두 한 번씩 다 이렇게 해보고 리허설도 시행착오도 있었지만 해봤기 때문에 그걸 바탕으로 임프로바이즈를 했을 때도 또 같이 너무 다르게 하지 않고 좀 통일된 감도 있고 그렇게 좀 한마음으로 할 수 있었던 것 같아서 결과적으로는 굉장히 만족하는 프로젝트가 됐습니다. 이상입니다.
So this was from the most recent Telematic concert. What you see on the left was her initial plan, because she heard that at least the Korean musicians would all be in the same room. So she planned rather similar way than with the vibraphone. The Korean team would act as a kind of lead and other people would respond to that. But there still ended up being various technical difficulties. Some adjustments had to be made. The thing on the right is her response to the issues that were created. And then that still wasn't enough. So it ended up becoming a form of improvisation, but because it was based on this sort of core similarity, a core text that had already been created, it did allow for the improvisation to be more harmonious. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mark and Michael and Soo-Yeon. And then next, Young Sung Kim and Kyung Sun Lee and me, we are talking about last January Telematic concerts. So before talking, I'm gonna sharing a very short a trailer video of last Telematic concert in SNU and San Diego. So this is a very, very first part of the concert, a very short film. It is editing now, so after that, maybe early March, this film is uploading in the YouTube channel. So you can just see a very, very, very first part of the concert. Enjoy. Okay, I'm sorry for the bad condition to playing the video. So yes, I cannot believe the Kyung Sun Lee was the first time improvising the playing music in Telematic concert, but she was playing a beautiful music. So would you please tell us about your feeling?
네,
네.
팬데믹을 뛰어넘은 텔레마틱 콘서트이기 때문에 저에게는 굉장히 의미가 있었던 것 같습니다. 너무 저한테 생소한 장르고 해보지 않은 그런 뮤직 메이킹 하는 시간이었지만 너무 인트레스팅하고 매력적인 공연을 경험했어요. 프리 뮤직의 대가들과의 즉흥 연주, 그리고 시공을 초월하는 뮤직 메이킹, 영상팀, 오디오팀 이런 분들과 함께 그야말로 벽을 허무는 그런 예술이 아니었나 생각이 들어요. 처음에 연습할 때 리허설 하는 동안 굉장히 어려움이 많았지만 결국 연주하는 동안은 제가 한 번도 경험하지 못한 느낌이 뭐가 됐냐면 하늘을 나는 새 같았어요. 그러니까 어떤 이 세장에 갇혀 있었던 그 느낌에서 완전히 날아다니는 새처럼 자유를 느끼면서 이 공연 뒤에 제 악보들을 보니까 이 오선지의 빽빽한 그 음표들이 너무 답답하다는 생각이 들 정도로 그렇게 제 시야가 좀 바뀌었다 그럴까요? 그래서 저는 정말 초보자인데도 이 여러 대가분들과 함께 이런 작업을 하게 해주셔서 너무 감사드리고 또 기회가 된다면 또 해보고 싶은 장르입니다.
So, seeing as this was a concert created with the express image of, you know, overcoming the pandemic, that made it an especially meaningful moment. And also it being her sort of first experience with free music, that was particularly fresh, a real kind of feeling of sort of overcrossing borders, both physical and also personal, in terms of overcoming the difficulties in rehearsals and now having really changed her perspective with regards to music, that she's now been freed. She said she felt like a bird flying in the sky, and now returning to a score, a written down score, becomes to a certain extent feeling rather restrictive. That she's hoping to do more of this creative, freer work in future as well.
Wow. Welcome to the free world. 네. And then 영상 Kim, 네, 한 말씀 해주세요.
네, 제가 이제 기술적으로 이제 담당을 해야 됐었던 부분은 안정적으로 네트워크를 통해서 소리가 잘 전달될 수 있도록 양쪽 방향으로 잘 전달될 수 있도록 하는 부분이 첫 번째로 중요하고, 두 번째는 양쪽의 연주자들이 연주를 하실 때 그래도 어느 정도 그 좀 밸런스가 맞는 어떤 음악을 들으셔야 연주하시기가 편하시거든요. 그래서 그 연주자들이 좀 편안한 밸런스로 어쨌든 연주를 하실 수 있도록 그 음향을 제공해 드리는 것, 이 두 가지가 있고, 그다음에 세 번째로는 이게 어떤 면에서 이 두 가지보다 더 중요할 수도 있는데, 준비가 철저히 돼서 연주자들이 딱 오셨을 때 연주자들은 긴장을 하고 오시잖아요. 이제 연주를 막 시작을 하셔야 되니까. 근데 뭐 기계가 뭐가 잘 안 된다든지 뭐가 환경이 뭔가 좀 너무 변화가 많거나 불편하다든지 하면은 사실 굉장히 익숙해지시는 데까지 오래 걸리거든요. 그러니까 최대한 오셨을 때 어떤 방해 요소가 생기지 않도록 시간적인 면에서도 딜레이가 되지 않고 셋업도 바로바로 대응할 수 있도록 이렇게 준비해 드리는 게 제 역할이었어요. 그래서 매번 연주자 선생님들이 준비하시는 동안 저는 이제 사운드 시스템을 어떻게 구성할지 디자인을 하고, 그것이 어떻게 하면 연주자들이 편안하게 연주하실 수 있을까, 어떻게 하면 시간을 최소화시킬 수 있을까, 어떻게 하면 그 연주자들이 필요하다고 하는 요청 사항이 있을 때 즉각적으로 대응해서 빠른 시간 내에 연주를 하시는 음악적인 느낌들을 훼손하지 않으면서 빨리빨리 진행하실 수 있도록 도와드릴 수 있을까, 이런 고민들을 하면서 진행했고요. 그런 부분에서 연주자들이 하시는 그 연주에 좀 도움이 되셨기를 바라는 그런 마음이었습니다. 네, 여기까지입니다.
And so obviously, as his focus was mainly on the technical issues, there were several factors that he was really focusing on a lot. The first was to make sure that there was a reliable network that was connecting in both ways. And not just that connection worked well, but also that there was a balance in terms of, you know, how much sound was coming from one side, that the performers could listen to that comfortably as well. And then he said, perhaps more important than these two basic factors was the issue of good preparation. So obviously coming into a new kind of performance environment, a lot of the performers would be a bit nervous, a bit tense, not comfortable with the situation. And so it was his role to make sure that everything that had been done was already done in advance. The performers just could come in and do their thing and not have to still have any testing, sudden issues that emerge. Obviously, at the same time, if there was an issue, you had to be able to respond very quickly to it to limit the interference. And then also just to make sure that if the performer didn't say, oh, I need this, I need that, that he was able to react to that as quickly as possible and create a comfortable and free performance experience for the performers.
Thank you so much. And then next we have only maybe 15 minutes. So we're gonna go to the round tables of free talking and Q&A something. So we have a lot of freshmen here, SNU. So if you don't mind, would you please turn on the video to show us?
학생들도 다
네,
또
한번
얼굴 좀 보여주세요.
얼굴 좀 보여주세요. We have a okay, hi.
So at this point, what we'll do is, I mean, anyone, not just the freshmen, anyone, any of our attendants who wants to ask a question, please either sort of raise your hand, or open your mic and ask the question. If you're uncomfortable with that, feel free to leave a message in English or Korean, and we'll read it out and pass on to the performers with questions. I'll give it 1 minute. If no one has questions to start with, I wanted to kind of kick off the discussion because I have lots of questions.
I have also.
Just to start with, I was particularly interested in what our two composers were saying in terms of the composition techniques. Well, actually, all three composers, in terms of the composition techniques used and the way you compensate for delays, how you encompass the delay in your work, and just how the sort of the technological limitations direct how you create the music, what music you decide to create. So if any of you could talk a bit more about that, I thought that was very fascinating.
Yeah, maybe
Mark, do you want to start first?
I'm happy to talk about that a little bit. I mean, in the example that I played for you, I expected delay, so I sort of had the piano player play in delay and have the New York ensemble play on the beat, assuming that it would be together. And as well as that, we use this this term heterophony, which is, I'm not talking about this example. Well, if I talk about the example that I used for the concert, I had an extremely simple piece. Basically, I composed a bass ostinato, and then I would have people do solos over it, and then it would be cross-fading solos and duos. A very, very, very simple form, but it was a way to begin a concert and let everyone be heard. So knowing in this case we had extremely little rehearsal, I thought it was an effective way to at least give everyone a chance to get used to the space of improvising together, as well as a comfortable way to start a concert.
Thank you. Michael, would you like to add a bit more from your perspective?
Well, maybe I'd actually like to ask a question and ask that maybe Soo-Yeon speak to that question, because she brought a piece and then revised it and changed it once she heard how it worked. This was on the most recent concert that we did just last month. And so I'd be interested. I mean, I've been using, we've tried many different strategies. And as Mark says, sometimes you can kind of get things to feel like they're in time together, even though they're not. You can also just work without a pulse. But I'd be curious to hear Soo-Yeon talk about the changes she made to her piece, because there was something she was trying to do at first that she heard that's not going to work because of the latency, and then she changed it. So that would be interesting to hear.
Well, Soo-Yeon, over to you then, please.
네. 아까 제가 발표할 때 그걸 말씀드린 것 같은데, 그래서 이제 처음에 저는 이게 텔레마틱에서는 리드믹한 게 잘 효과가 없다는 거를 익히 잘 알고 있었는데, 이번에 이제 특별히 또 한국에 계신 분들이 한 공간에 있다고 해서 혹시 가능할까 해서 트라이를 해봤는데 역시나 힘들더라고요. 그래서 아까 마크 선생님이 말씀하신 것처럼 그 마크 선생님 곡에서는 이제 한 명만 그 리듬을 한 거거든요. 그리고 나머지 사람들이 거기에 이제 임프로바이즈를 한 것처럼 그렇게 좀 그게 아직까지는 제가 느꼈을 때 최선의 방법인 것 같고요. 그래서 이제 제 곡에서도 나중에 이제 한 명만 이렇게 주로 피아노 아니면 검은고가 그런 리듬 파트를 맡는 걸로 마지막에 그렇게 수정을 해서 연주했어요.
Okay, so just to elaborate on what she was saying earlier, that initially she had the plan that all the people who were in Korea, who were in the same room, could be able to do rhythmic things together. That was the initial plan. What she found was that because that didn't work, she then adjusted it to there being only one person in charge of the rhythm while the others improvise on top. So usually that part was given either to the piano or to the Geomungo player, and the others would improvise on top. And that she finds that based on the current sort of technical limits, that is the most appropriate way to deal with the composition as well, to create in that way, to allow things to work pretty smoothly. Now, since we just heard a bit from Soo-Yeon, I heard that you have more projects coming up. Would you like to tell us a bit about them? And then I'd like to hear from the other panelists as well, what kind of plans you have going forward. I think, Michael, you, for example, you've also been working with Colombia and California connections between the two. So maybe if you could elaborate on that project, that would be really great as well. But let's hear from Soo-Yeon first, and then we'll pass on to you and Mark.
네. 저는 우선 다음 달 4월에는 Bang on a Can 마라톤이라는 그 온라인 콘서트에서 거기서 솔로를 하게 됐고요. 그 다음에 5월에는 또 크로노스가 버추얼 페스티벌 하는데 거기서 솔로를 하고, 또 크로노스랑은 다른 프로젝트가 또 있어요. 그래서 이제 그건 좀 장기 프로젝트는 이제 계속 하고 있는 게 있고, 그 다음에 학교랑 하는 거는 UC 산타크루즈랑 텍사스 오스틴, 그리고 UCLA에서 이제 4, 5월에 연주나 렉처 하는 게 있습니다.
So yeah, like there's lots of new upcoming events that are happening. I mean, she's listed about 4 or 5 different events that are coming up sort of in the next couple of months alone. So I mean, I won't be able to explain them all directly because I'm not sure how the Korean pronunciation translates into English, but just the fact is, I think that we can see there's really a lot of things that are happening in this that's quite exciting development there. So Michael, how's about, can you tell us a bit more about your work that you've been doing?
Well, there's so much happening right now that it's really overwhelming because there are events across the world. And if you know a lot of people, you get invited to things every day that are happening all the time. So it's actually a really interesting new challenge. We can now, we're very, we've gotten a lot of experience now doing concerts from home and putting them online. And people can come from anywhere in the world, but it's kind of an overwhelming amount of material out there right now that you could spend all day watching concerts. So that's an interesting problem. But I've been working with the country Colombia in South America for about 6 years, and doing concerts between there and California. we've also done something that has been really fun and important for me, has been to work on educational projects. Mark and I have taught classes telematically where we have graduate students collaborating through the internet, and we have a class at one university and a class at another, and we work together and have them do projects. But I've also done projects with high school students in Colombia. I'm not sure what high school would translate, but ages like 14 to 18, students that are pretty young. And so we do things like this was a telematic class where high school students from California were here, and you can see they're here in California, but on the screen behind them, we were using the same tools we use for our concerts to connect them with a group of high school students in South America. And so in this case, they were doing something called conduction, which is where someone is giving hand signals like a conductor, but there's no written music. It's just to guide improvising. And so we had a class for them where they learned about that. This is a wonderful colleague of Mark's in San Diego, a trumpet player, Stephanie, who was teaching them conduction and guiding them. And so it was really interesting because we exposed them to new kinds of music that they hadn't done before, more experimental kinds of music. So you can see here she's guiding them in conducting improvisations. And then on the screen, they're doing the same thing. And then sometimes we would conduct the ensemble in the other location and their conductor would conduct us. So there's a lot of things you can do to explore new kinds of music making in combination with networks. And it's great that when people like Kyung Sun get involved and start improvising and have fun, because we want new kinds of communities to be built, new networks and connections between people. In addition to just over distance, we wanted to bring people together to try out new ways of making music.
Yes.
Lovely, thank you. And would any of the other panelists like to talk more about projects that they have coming up as well?
Well,
Also, please, by the way, check the chat. There's various links that are coming up there. So if you want more information, please check the chat for those links. Sorry, please.
No,
Please
I just would like to share that because of the pandemic, we're using telematic technology to just get work done. So for example, I have a bass ensemble at UC San Diego. We are not allowed to meet in person. So we get together, two of my bass players have access to the building and I'm in my office and we connect through in our practice rooms using our Ethernet cables and our headphones, and we connect with one of our bass players who's during the pandemic is in Vancouver, Canada. So we are able to rehearse and we're collaborating with our graduate composers. And so a rehearsal will be first thing, we'll play a piece by one of our graduate composers who, because of the pandemic, is joining us from Taiwan. So, we have Taiwan, three bass players in San Diego, one in Vancouver, and then an hour later we have a composer in Perth, Australia, and the pieces are completely different. And after a while, it just doesn't matter. We're able to get some music done. We're working towards a project. I think that the big tragedy of the pandemic is that it's cut us off from one another. And I feel for all of the students who have to, take classes like, from your rooms and I really empathize with the pressure for you to participate. And I realize that it's, after being isolated, that it's difficult. And one of the most beautiful things about telematics is that it gives us the moment to connect. And even if it's not perfect, even if there are issues, the ability that we are able to get some music done, connect with composers, and bring music to life is so fantastic. I feel that's the real gift, and I really feel it's a human thing. Once again, going back to what Yoon Jeong said at the beginning.
Thank you. I mean, I think that really kind of sums up the spirit of what we're talking about here very much. And I mean, I think what's so exciting about your projects that you've been doing is also just the potential for creating interactions that maybe wouldn't have been possible before. I mean, all moving and sort of collaborating internationally costs money and time, and these things are areas where obviously there's a huge potential for telematics to also create more equality in interaction and allowing access to people that might perhaps otherwise have not had it so easily to interact. Obviously there are the technical requirements, but limiting flight and travel time and visas, I think, is obviously something that's going to be very attractive for artists as well. So I don't know if anyone would still like to comment on that to finish us up. We're basically on time, but does anyone have any finishing words they would like to say?
국악과 학생들은 너무 축복을 받은 것 같아요. 저희 기악과는 감히 이런 걸 할 생각도 못했고 악보를 보고 하는 그런 입장이기 때문에 타임 디퍼런스가 있어서 안 되잖아요. 근데 국악과 학생들은 이미 어릴 때부터 악보 없이 이렇게 공부를 해온 장르라서 이게 훨씬 더 가능하다고 생각이 들고 정말 축복받은 과입니다.
So just to translate that comment, she's saying that especially the Korean traditional music students are very lucky because the musical culture doesn't focus as much on notation as a classical violinist does. And so there's a certain amount of basic freedom you're starting with that definitely allows for having easier interactions in this case. So she envies the students their luck in this regard.
But 한국말로 할게요. 그런데 이경 선생님 좋은 말씀 해주셔서 너무 감사합니다. 그런데 아쉽게도 우리 국악도 지금 많이 악보에 얽매여 있어서 점점 그 즉흥 연주력을 잃어가고 있는 게 현실이에요. 너무나 슬프죠. 그래서 제가 즉흥음악 연주 실습, 즉흥 연주 실습이랑 클래스를 지금 열고 있으니까 이번 1학기 세메스터 우리 프레시맨 여러분들 꼭 들으셔서 이런 자유로운 음악을 할 수 있는 어떤 실력을 길렀으면 좋겠고, 이경 선생님 계시면 제자분들도 서양음악 하는 연주자들도 다 들어올 수 있거든요. 작곡도 그렇고. 그러니까 함께 이런 좀 새로운 음악을 같이 해볼 수 있는 기회가 열렸으면 좋겠어요. 네.
So just to finish up.
네.
Because the students, many students now do become more familiar with notation. It's gradually notation has become more important in Kugat. And so she was advertising her class in improvisation, which lots of students can come in and listen to then hopefully be able to keep this up. 김양선 선생님.
Don't afraid.
그냥 네, 먼저 그 연주해 주신 선생님들의 진짜 이거는 뭐 어메이징이라고 밖에 표현할 수 없을 것 같은데 정말 놀라운 연주들이 작곡과 함께 너무 아름다웠어요. 그 옆에서 작업하는 입장에서도 특히 다른 선생님들도 너무 좋으셨지만 이경 선생님 처음 하셨다는 건 정말 믿어지지가 않습니다. 너무 전체적으로 음악을 너무 풍성하게 만들어 주셔서 그 부분이 너무 놀라웠었던 상황이었고요. 바라기는 이제 교수님들이 이렇게 하고 있으니까 학생들끼리도 할 수 있는 이런 프로젝트들이 좀 있었으면 하는 그런 바람이 있습니다. 네.
제가 여름에 추진해 보겠습니다.
네. 네.
So I think this is a great place to stop. This is saying just from the experience of the technical side that it was so impressive to see the various performers doing their thing, particularly Kyung Sun in her first time improvising. And that just, as the sort of perspective of educators, really hoping that the students take the inspiration to do more, and that we can also open events for students. And the plan is out there to do this in the summer. So please watch this space. We hope to bring more exciting developments to you in future. And I think with that, we'll wrap up the session here. And thank you so much for everyone who's attended, and we will see you in the next session. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good night there. And then
Thank
I
you.
Good night.
Bye bye.
Bye bye. Thank you.